All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we're diving deep into one of those legends that just grabs you, the Thunderbird.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking giant birds, Native American lore, and some pretty freaky stories of alleged attacks.
Yeah, and even some attempts from science to try and explain it all.
So are you in, ready to explore this with me?
Definitely, let's do it. What gets me about the Thunderbird is just how deeply rooted it is in so many Native American cultures.
Yeah, you don't see that with every mythical creature.
Right, it's not just a scary story, it's like this symbol woven into their art, their beliefs, their entire history.
So we're not just talking about, like, Bigfoot with feathers, then?
Not exactly. The Thunderbird has a whole different vibe.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So where do we even begin with a legend as massive as this?
Well, we could start with the Passamaquoddy tribe.
Right?
They have this awesome story about two guys basically on this quest to find the source of thunder.
The source of thunder.
Yeah. And as you might guess, they end up finding a giant bird, the Thunderbird, just chilling on a mountain peak.
So that's where the whole storm connection comes in.
Exact.
But is it always seen as this, I don't know, scary figure?
It's not that straightforward. That's what makes it so interesting.
Okay.
The Thunderbird, it's got this dual nature, this ability to be both good and bad, kind of like reflecting the power of nature itself.
Makes sense.
For some tribes, it's this protector, right? A symbol of strength.
Mm.
They even believe that those smooth, igneous rocks, the ones we call thunderstones, they think those are actually Thunderbird eggs.
Thunderstones, Thunderbird eggs.
Oh.
This is already getting wild.
Oh, it gets wilder.
I bet. But I guess a creature this powerful, it can't always be the good guy, right?
You got it. That's where the really scary stories come in.
Like what?
Tales of Thunderbirds battling killer whales, creating whirlpools, even causing earthquakes just by flapping their wings.
Whoa.
They can be tricksters, even punish humans who mess with them.
Okay, this is starting to sound less like a cute bird and more like something out of, like, Greek mythology. But are we talking just stories here? Or have there been actual sightings of this?
Oh, there have been sightings, and this is where the legend takes a turn for the truly weird.
Okay, lay it on me.
One of the most famous cases happened in 1977 in Lawndale, Illinois.
Lawndale, Illinois.
Yep, small town.
Okay.
So there's this 10-year-old boy, Marlon Lowe, playing in his backyard when he claims he's attacked by a giant bird.
Hold on, attacked, like swooped down and grabbed him. This isn't some bird watching gone wrong.
You got it. Marlon actually described being lifted 30 feet into the air by this thing.
30 feet.
And he gave specific details. Dark bird, white ring around its neck, about 4.5 feet tall, with an 8-foot wingspan.
Yeah, that's a big bird.
And get this, there were multiple witnesses, even his mom, who backed up his story.
Wait, so this isn't just a kid making stuff up?
It doesn't seem like it. Marlon's mom was so freaked out, she went to the library, did her own research, and even convinced herself it had to be a California condor.
A condor in Illinois. That seems a little out of place, even for me.
Yeah, I was going to say a condor in Illinois is about as likely as finding a polar bear hanging out in the Amazon.
Right, so if not a condor, then what? Is there any bird that could actually lift a child into the air?
It's a good question, and it brings us to some interesting science.
Okay, get me.
Condors, even though they're huge, they've got these kind of weak feet. They're more like scavengers, not hunters. Their feet aren't built for grabbing and carrying prey.
So are we thinking eagles then? Could an eagle, even a really big one, carry a child?
Well, there's this raptor in Africa, the African crowned eagle, and these guys are known to prey on monkeys.
Monkeys?
Yeah, and they're powerful, like seriously powerful.
Yeah.
They've been seen hunting primates that weigh up to 20 pounds.
Okay, so they can lift some weight.
But for a child like Marlon, who is around 60 pounds, you'd need a ridiculously strong eagle.
So we're talking like a freakishly strong eagle that somehow got blown off course and ended up in Illinois.
It's a long shot, but honestly, it's the closest we have to a plausible explanation.
Right.
Yeah, the chances are slim, but based on how it hunts and its strength, the African crowned eagle is more likely than a condor.
Okay, so we have a possible suspect, but still a lot of mystery.
Oh yeah, the Lawndale incident is just the tip of the iceberg.
Right, you mentioned other sightings, even some footage.
Exactly. There's so much more to uncover, from blurry videos of these massive birds in flight to pilots claiming they saw these giant winged creatures right next to their planes.
Wow.
The Thunderbird sightings, they go back decades all over the place. But before we jump ahead, let's dig into some of these other accounts, see what they tell us about this thing.
You've got my attention. Let's do it.
So, you ready for more Thunderbird encounters?
Ooh, yeah, hit me.
Okay, let's go back to 1977, same year as Lawndale, but this time we're in Danville, Illinois. Yeah, so we've got this 17-year-old kid, John Walker, out hunting doves with his buddy.
Hunting doves.
Right, and they hear this really weird sound.
Like the Thunderbird's theme music.
Ha. Not quite theme music, but definitely creepy.
Okay.
Walker said it sounded like a trapped animal, almost like a cry.
The cry.
Yeah, super unsettling.
I bet.
So they look up, and there it is, this huge bird circling overhead.
How huge are we talking?
Walker estimated it to be like 5 or 6 feet long, just from shoulder to tail feathers.
That's bigger than any hawk or eagle I've ever seen.
Right, and he said if it had been a hawk or a small eagle, they wouldn't have even thought twice.
Yeah, I guess you see those all the time.
Exactly, but this thing was on a whole other level.
Hmm.
Walker even drew a picture of it.
Really?
Yeah, he emphasized the square-shaped wings and these kind of like menacing feathers.
Okay, so another sighting, another description that fits the Thunderbird profile. But do we just take every teenager's word for it?
Mm-hmm.
What do the experts think?
Well, that's what's interesting. We have Dr. Patrick Reddick, the director of the Raptor Center at the University of Minnesota.
Okay.
And he's a scientist, but he's actually open to the idea of a large undiscovered bird out there.
So he's not ruling it out completely.
No, but he's still a scientist, so he wants proof, like a live specimen or a body.
Right. Makes sense. Hard to argue with that.
Exactly.
So we're still in the realm of interesting stories, no smoking gun yet. But you mentioned footage earlier, like actual video of a possible Thunderbird.
Let's rewind to that Lake Shelbyville footage, remember, from 77.
Lake Shelbyville, okay.
John Huffer, the guy who filmed it, he was convinced Thunderbirds were real.
Convinced.
Yeah, he had heard all the local stories and actually, staked out a spot by the lake hoping to see one.
Wow, dedicated.
And he got lucky, or unlucky, depending on how you look at it.
Uh-huh, yeah, I guess so.
He filmed these mysterious birds in flight.
That's gonna be worth something, right?
It should be, but here's the thing. The Department of Conservation, after the footage aired, they were quick to say it was just turkey vultures.
Turkey vultures, come on. Those things are barely majestic.
I know, right? It's a bit of a letdown.
Sort of letdown.
But remember what we talked about. Perspective can be really tricky, especially when you're filming birds flying around.
Yeah, true. Things can look way bigger or smaller depending on the angle.
Exactly. And there are different opinions even among the experts.
Like what?
Well, we've got Dr. Mike Wallace, a California condor expert,
Okay.
and he's firmly in the turkey vulture camp, even points out specific markings on the wings that match vultures, not some unknown giant bird.
Oh, so one expert, one vote for turkey vultures. Was there anyone else?
We also have Dr. David Hancock, a bird biologist. He agrees it's probably vultures,
Okay.
but he thinks they might be different vultures based on their molting patterns.
A molting pattern.
Yeah, basically how they shed their feathers.
Interesting.
So maybe a group of turkey vultures, but still vultures?
Okay, so 2 for turkey vultures, case closed.
Not so fast. Remember Dr. Reddick, the one who's open to the possibility of a new species?
Yeah, the open-minded one.
Right, well, he looked at the footage and he felt it was too large to be a regular eagle or vulture.
Really?
Yeah, he even compared the proportions to a condor.
Wow, so even the experts are divided.
It seems so.
We're stuck with this blurry footage and conflicting opinions. Is there any sighting where someone got a really good look, like had a clear idea of the size?
There's one that comes to mind. It was in 1995 in Brownsville, Texas.
Brownsville, Texas?
Yeah, Guadalupe Cantu, he's delivering newspapers with his brother-in-law, and they see this massive bird just sitting on a telephone pole.
A telephone pole. Now, that's what I call a size reference.
Right.
So what did he say? How big was this thing?
Cantu said it was like 8 feet tall.
8 feet.
Yeah, basically a third of the height of the pole. And he guessed the wingspan was somewhere between 15 and 25 feet.
Wow, that's gigantic.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a quick glimpse, right? He got a good look.
He did. The bird was just perched there, giving him plenty of time to check it out.
So what did it look like?
Cantu said it looked like a giant, ancient vulture or eagle, something out of prehistoric times.
So we finally have a credible eyewitness, a clear size reference. Does this convince any of the experts?
It adds to the mystery, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Cantu's description, it lines up with other sightings, even matches the size of the extinct teratorn, that prehistoric giant bird.
Birdie.
But again, without any physical evidence, it's hard to say for sure what he saw.
All right, so we're kind of going in circles here. Giant birds, blurry images, human perception, messing things up. Maybe we need to shift gears for a bit.
Sounds good.
You mentioned the Thunderbird's importance in Native American culture. I'd love to hear more about that.
Great idea. Because to really understand the Thunderbird, we need to go beyond just the sightings, right?
Right.
We need to understand the cultural context, why this legend is so powerful.
Okay, I'm with you. So where do we see the Thunderbird in Native American culture?
It's everywhere. Their art, totem poles, clothing, carvings, even grave sites.
Wow, it's everywhere.
Yeah, the Thunderbird is often shown as this powerful raptor, sometimes with its wings spread out, other times holding a serpent in its claws.
What's the symbolism behind those depictions? Is it always about, like, power and fear?
It's more complex than that. For many tribes, the Thunderbird represents strength and protection, especially from evil spirits.
Hmm.
It's often linked to the sky, the weather, bringing rain, and those massive thunderstorms.
So not just a monster, but a complex symbol with a deep spiritual meaning.
Exactly, and it's not just ancient history either.
What do you mean?
Well, we see the Thunderbird in modern pop culture too. The Ford Thunderbird, fighter jets, even sports teams.
It's amazing how a creature of myth can have such a lasting impact. But let's go back to those eyewitness accounts for a second.
Okay.
We've heard from adults, but wasn't there a case involving a child?
You're thinking about the Lawndale incident with young Marlon Lowe, who was supposedly attacked in his backyard?
Yeah, that story really stuck with me. Before we go there, I think it's important to remember the potential trauma.
Right.
We need to be sensitive.
Absolutely. It's crucial to acknowledge the impact such an event could have on a child.
Exactly. Okay, with that in mind,
Mm.
can you remind us what happened to Marlon?
So it was July 25th, 1977. Marlon was playing hide and seek with some friends when suddenly something grabs him.
Oh, wow.
He looks up, and there it is, this massive bird.
I can't even imagine.
And remember, he specifically mentioned a white ring around the bird's neck.
Yeah, that was a chilling detail.
And his mom, Ruth, she saw it too.
She did.
Yeah, she was terrified, obviously, and reported it right away.
What do the authorities say?
They kind of brushed it off. They said it was probably just a turkey vulture.
Just a turkey vulture. Come on.
But Ruth wasn't buying it.
I wouldn't either.
She was determined to figure out what it was.
Good for her.
So she did her research, went to the library, read everything she could, and came to the conclusion that it had to be a California condor.
A California condor in Illinois. Didn't we already say that's pretty much impossible?
Exactly. And there's another issue.
What that?
Condors, both Californian and Andine, they have those weak feet. Remember, not the kind built for grabbing and lifting.
Right. So if it's not a condor, what are we left with?
Well, the experts we talked to, they all seem to agree that if a bird was going to carry something, it'd have to be a raptor, like a hawk or an eagle.
Okay, because of the talons.
Exactly, those strong feet, sharp talons made for hunting.
But could an eagle, even a crazy big one, actually carry a child?
That's where things get tricky. Dr. Reddick, our raptor expert, he explained that for an eagle to carry, say, an 8-pound cat, it would need to weigh at least 16 to 20 pounds itself.
So double its prey's weight.
At least. And Marlon was a lot heavier than an 8-pound cat, right?
Yeah, he was around 60 pounds.
Even for a large eagle that's pushing it to lift that much weight.
This is where my brain starts to break down credible eyewitnesses, but the science doesn't seem to add up. Is there anything else that could explain what happened to Marlon?
There is one more possibility, and it might be the most unsettling one.
Uh-oh. Not sure I like the sound of that.
Remember that African crowned eagle we talked about? The one that hunts monkeys?
Wait, you're telling me there's an eagle out there that hunts monkeys? That sounds like something straight out of a movie.
It's true. And not just small monkeys either. They've been known to take down primates weighing up to 20 pounds. There have even been reports, though rare, of them attacking humans.
Okay, now I'm officially freaked out. But how could an African eagle end up in Illinois? That seems even more far-fetched than a condor.
It is highly improbable, but not totally impossible. Birds can get blown off course by strong storms, and remember, the late 1970s had some strange weather patterns, including that El Niño effect, which could have messed with bird migrations.
So there's a tiny chance that Marlon ran into an eagle thousands of miles from home.
It's a long shot, but we can't rule it out completely.
I need a minute to process that.
Oh.
But let's not forget, Marlon's story is just one part of this whole thing.
You're right. We've got all these stories, sightings, even that footage to think about. And it's important to remember these accounts come from all sorts of people, with different backgrounds and experiences. It's a whole mix of human perception and memory.
So where do we go from here?
Maybe we should take a step back and look at some of the theories people have come up with to explain the whole Thunderbird phenomenon.
The theories? Okay, I'm game. Where do we start?
Let's start with the simplest one, misidentification.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about perspective playing tricks on us? Well, Sometimes people just mistake regular birds for something more.
So like a big owl at dusk suddenly becomes a monster bird in our minds.
Exactly. Especially if you already believe in the Thunderbird, you might see what you expect to see, not what's actually there.
Right. Our brains love to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, they do. What about hoaxes? Could some of these sightings be fake?
I was wondering about that.
Sadly, yes. There have been cases where people made up Thunderbird sightings for attention or even money.
That's a bummer.
It is, because it makes it so much harder to separate real accounts from the fake ones.
Like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Exactly. Let's get to some of the wilder theories. What about the idea that Thunderbirds are actually surviving pterosaurs?
Pterosaurs. Like those flying reptiles from the dinosaur age.
The very same. Now we're getting into cryptozoology territory.
I love it.
Pterosaurs are thought to have gone extinct millions of years ago.
Right. But the idea is that maybe a few survived somehow hidden away somewhere in the world.
That's the theory. It's a cool idea, but there's no scientific evidence to support it. Plus, the descriptions of thunderbirds with their feathers and bird-like features don't really match what we know about pterosaurs.
So probably not pterosaurs. What about the idea that they're interdimensional beings? That one always blows my mind.
Now we're in the paranormal zone. Some believe that thunderbirds aren't physical creatures at all, but beings from another dimension that sometimes cross over into our reality.
Like ghosts with wings.
Kinda. This theory often gets linked to the idea that thunderbirds can control the weather, appearing during storms or even causing them.
That's pretty out there.
Yeah.
But without any way to measure or observe interdimensional travel, it's hard to take that theory seriously.
It's more of a philosophical concept than a scientific one.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, one last theory before we wrap up. What about the connection to UFOs or aliens? I've heard whispers about that one.
That one's definitely out there. It's gained some traction in certain circles. Some folks believe thunderbirds are either extraterrestrial creatures themselves or somehow connected to alien tech.
So like alien drones disguised as giant birds.
I've heard that one. And it often gets tied to those reports of thunderbirds being seen with strange lights or electromagnetic weirdness.
Okay, I think we've had enough theoretical speculation for one day.
Agreed.
It seems like we keep hitting the same wall. Cool stories and eyewitness accounts, but no real proof.
That's the classic cryptozoology problem. The thunderbird is a perfect example of something that exists in that fuzzy space between myth and reality.
But even without hard proof, the Thunderbird continues to capture our imaginations. It's become a symbol of the wild, the unknown, the untamed parts of the world.
It has. And it reminds us that there are still mysteries out there, things we haven't figured out yet. Maybe that's why it's so captivating.
The unknown always draws us in. It makes us want to explore and question and keep that sense of wonder alive. Who knows? Maybe someday someone will get that clear photo or video that finally proves the Thunderbird exists.
Until then, the legend lives on, inspiring awe and wonder, and maybe a little bit of fear in those who hear its tales. It's a reminder that there's still magic and mystery to be found in the world if we're open to it.
Well said. This has been an incredible journey exploring the Thunderbird, from Native American lore to the search for evidence. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired to keep my eyes peeled for the unexpected and embrace the mysteries that are still out there. You never know what we might find.
That's the spirit. And maybe someday we'll revisit this deep dive with some new evidence and insights. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that sense of wonder alive.
Thanks for joining us on this Thunderbird adventure. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.